It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a podcast podcasted weekly from a kitchen bench in Kingsland, Auckland, New Zealand. Podcasting to you 31 of the last 33 weeks and aiming to get to 52 weeks, which will be 50 shows, including the 2 weeks granted to me in leave a few weeks ago by the non-existent New Zealand Podcast Union, and then we'll see where we go from there. Now, I mentioned either last week or the week before that I'm finding it increasingly difficult to get these out on time. On time used to be Tuesday. It's just any time during the week now. Really? Hey? Okay, because it's a hobby that you enjoy, that I do. And it's not because of the interviews. I normally settle into those straight away, and it's lovely to have people over and connect, and I love hearing interesting people talk about the interesting stuff they do. It's been more the this bit, actually. What do you call it? I think they call it in the professional bizzo, the monologue, often written by a gag writer if you're in the TV presenter game. But these monologues, you know, I've got to say something in them. They've got to connect in some way. Otherwise, I may as well just bung the interview on. So they depend on sort of where I'm at. And the last few weeks have been particularly difficult because of something that's been kind of ongoing for myself. That is a sort of thing that maybe 20 years ago you probably wouldn't mention at all. But I've noticed with the likes of people like Scroobius Pip's podcast and Maron's podcast. People I really admire, like Billy Connolly, heck, even Greens candidate Haley Holt coming out in the media recently, that back in the day it used to be okay to say, my leg's fallen off, so I'm kind of in a bad way. People would understand that. But mental health stuff, not so easy. So for me, something I've been thinking about for longer than just the last 2 weeks, probably realistically, for a number of years now, is the fact that I can't drink anymore. Not that I drink every day, not that I'm trying to justify what, problem drinking is or isn't in terms of it being daily. If that's someone else's thing, that might not be a problem for some. It may be a crippling problem for others. Mine is a small passage of my week which clouds the other days of my week where I'm otherwise a pretty chipper, functioning, okay fellow. Trying to think how else to put that. But, I was thinking that I'm not even a tennis guy, but the tennis parlance always comes into my head with this, the idea of unforced errors. If I'm not drinking, there are not many unforced errors, if any, in my life. When I am, and perhaps afterwards, there are unforced errors, and there are particular ones which are also regular in line with said activity that do me even less favours. So why am I saying all of this? To be salacious? To prick the ears of the listeners? No, not really. It's because the whole idea I started these is I loved the honesty of the other podcasts I was listening to. And how am I going to get honest with guests if I'm not sort of honest about where I am? And I also hope by talking about this that, hey, if you've been kind of thinking in a similar vein about whatever it is that maybe trips you up a little, that maybe it's just another person kind of sort of saying in your ear hole that they're going to try and do something about it. And another reason is quite selfish, to be honest, folks. I want somewhere regularly to be able to check in and honestly say how I'm going. So I'm hoping I'll find strength, even if I don't hear from listeners and so on in discussing this. I'm hoping I just find a strength before that, and just using these intros each week just to briefly check in and just mention that I'm up to X amount of time. Hopefully, touch wood, don't touch glass. Yes, so we'll leave it there. And the other thing I thought about is often with other, particularly podcasts I listen to, the reason that some hosts can be really frank, I think, is because they're sort of owner-operators, if that makes sense. So you've got to think about stakeholders and so on. And I thought about discussing this a few weeks earlier, and it was like, will it compromise my workplace? Will it compromise anything I go and do in the future if someone listens to this episode? And I thought, well, if someone or people have that attitude to someone stating something like this, then perhaps the issue lies more with them. And from what I can garner, where I've been duly employed the last few years, a pretty supportive bunch. And they'll probably never even hear this anyway. So there you go. I hope that came across as positive. I certainly feel lighter now it's come out. I came in to do this not at home again because the renovations are still happening. The landlord, bless him, building his Airbnb pods. It just sounds like he's dragging a billiard table around all day and then dropping it and seeing whether it looks okay where he's dropped it, and then dragging it and dropping it. And dragging and dropping billiard tables is it's grating on the soul from through the wall after a while. Okay, chin up, everyone. My guest this week's a lovely, eccentric, I don't know, it's a terrible word, eccentric, but he is. I mean, I'm eccentric, apparently. I'm told by people, pointed at, you're eccentric. Very talented man, Guy Capper. I love what he does with claymation. I always loved sort of having him around before that. One of those people who I've never sort of hung out with, but he's a good egg. I've known since around my school and uni days, as we discussed in the podcast. Definitely check his show online, The Pen, THE space PEN, aka Robert and Sheepy, himself and Jermaine Clement in Claymation Sheep Antics. A cheap description might be, think of a kind of New Zealand Aardman-esque thing. All right, have a great week, folks. Like the show on iTunes. Find me on Facebook, Verbal Highs Podcast, Verbal Highs on Twitter. Nice to see every week a few more people popping up who I've never heard of before, who are supporting the show through a finger-based muscle motion called the like. All right, toodaloo.
This is Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs.
Should I get my headphones?
I don't normally... Do you want headphones? I haven't got a second pair. I normally have a second pair. You sound fine, trust me.
Oh, yeah, good.
You'll probably be more relaxed with them off anyway.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, so we just really just talk for 80 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever listened to such a thing before? They're quite popular.
I've heard of them. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. No, I totally have heard of them. I just haven't been listening to a lot of them, but I like... A
lot of American... I found a lot of, like, really good, but not the super famous ones, British and American comedians do them. And so they make good hosts, but they have really interesting guests too, who aren't like super famous kind of douchebags. They're like the interesting
taxi
kind
drivers.
of... No, not taxi drivers.
I just think that's real funny thing to say, 'cause it's always like, go mow the taxi, we'll go to Nagas. I'm telling you now, it's crazy down here. I'm going to leave this job. I'm going to leave it.
Years ago...
Now we're recording?
Years ago on Brekkie...
Oh, no.
Years ago on Brekkie, we actually had a cab driver who used to call in, and...
I remember that.
I remember that.
Yeah,
the American guy.
No, that's right. I remember
the American guy, Gabby Cabby.
Oh my god, yeah.
Pre kind of proper internet. I don't know how we found him, but what were you in the room for? Did we used to have you up on breakfast?
Dude, I talked. I remember I did a caterpillar on a leaf, and I got a bit annoyed. I think.
What did I have you up for?
We were just being silly.
I just said come up and be silly.
Yeah.
Where did we meet?
And then the guy asked me to get off the air, which is perfect.
Get off the leaf.
Yeah,
he should have said get off.
I was doing an impersonation of a caterpillar.
You got to keep facing. We're recording. You got to keep facing.
Oh, you're recording already?
Yeah, it's a loose arrangement.
Oh, yeah.
So what was happening?
I think I was doing an impersonation of a caterpillar on a tree.
Yeah.
Who was talking about an earthquake. That was all. It was a long time ago, and yeah, that's all good. That's all on there.
My guest today is a clay animator, actor, writer, comic, artist, and teacher. And
I thought you said antiques.
Antique dealer.
Yeah, antiques.
And caterpillar impersonator. Welcome, Guy Capper.
Oh, thank you so much.
So you seem to be you're kind of dabbling in the visual arts at the moment. Well, I guess kind of claymation's visual arts, isn't it? But you're doing lots of like, what do you call it? Art?
Yeah, arty art. No, I think that's with like Robin and Sheepy, stop motion visual art.
But the art you're doing is more
canvas
drawings
and stuff. Yeah, those sort of arts. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of digital art that then I've been putting onto canvas
Yeah.
and doing experiments and loving it. Yeah, I love it, because I can do lots of colour. And I say that because I, on purpose, sort of drew scribbles for 10 years, just black and white.
Yeah.
And I found that a really good way to get good at improvising line drawing. And that was the goal. The goal was to be able to basically just to draw, improvised drawing. And as you draw, when there's sort of problems, you sort of just make them work. So it's almost like a, your own trippy crossword puzzle that keeps moving.
So the stuff you're posting online starts off hand drawn and then it's digitally coloured.
Yeah, some of them do, but I've been doing them on the tablet, and then I've had ones where I draw.
What, like on Photoshop or something? How do you do that?
No, just like you get apps where you can just draw line work, and then you
Yeah.
can. So I've had these two.
What are you using? A finger, a mouse?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
One of the ways is like if you draw a picture, just like an ink sketch, then of course you can scan that, take it into Photoshop, and play around.
Yeah.
But so one thing when I'm working is I sort of work where I join them up, so then you can sort of block colour them sometimes. But I actually have been doing a thing where I sometimes jump between like three programs. Sometimes 4 is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where you just keep glitching it out a bit and pulling it back and playing with it and going back and forwards. And if you do that with layers, it's so much fun. So you basically can get quite an organic look, as well as, because a lot of computer stuff can be sort of quite digital looking, quite bright.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, of course, it's been around since the beginning of Photoshop with soft focus and so forth. But with like, I noticed that I was getting effects that were sort of like graffiti, right?
Right,
like
mate.
graffiti.
Yeah. Like Banksy, mate.
Or exactly like Banksy.
right.
In fact, funny you should say that.
I've not known you as an artist. I know that's not a technical term, an artist. But so what's happening with all this art? Is it piling up in your house, or are you planning to exhibit? Or I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to
you know
have
that
an
you need a
exhibition.
plan, but
Yeah, no, I sort of, I thought the thing of was, sometimes I've been trying to make a body of work
yeah.
that I can actually make a whole lot of pictures, hundreds of
A
pictures.
canon
that I can work with over the years. So in some ways, like I'm setting myself up for a whole lot of pictures that I can edit and work with. So that's what it's about. So they're not piling up anywhere. They're so I would have done over thousands of those drawings that and coloured.
Is this over a lifetime or the last few years?
Probably over the last 5-6 years.
So are you someone who kind of you work sporadically and manically and then not work and then work and then not work, or do you always
Well,
work?
if I'm working on a project, so if I'm working on a paid job, then it'll be a tighter deadline. And but with some of them, I much prefer to choose. So it's kind of fortunate if you can choose the way you come up with your ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I think all brainstorming and all that stuff works. So I don't think. But anyway, to answer your question,
I was more asking whether there were chemical imbalances where you'd work furiously and fast.
I understand that stuff. Like I have in the past enjoyed, I guess like when you're younger, you'd be up quite late a lot with friends, so you'd be working quite late. But in the end, I think you want to be able to. You know that thing of when you create sort of thing. You know, when you create it, just fucking create. So I guess that's sort of, I don't know. Like I know what it's like to work on something when you're not into it anymore.
Yeah.
So then you've got to get a bit creative. You actually can find sort of a lot of comedy out of the pain of having to do something. Like any character, like I quite like animations or films about people that work in supermarkets and stuff. I find that stuff really fun.
I've not seen that body of work. Where are the
Well, maybe I
animations
need to make one. But I mean, maybe on that sort of the Clerks thing, like and that sort of vein, that sort of vein.
Yeah.
So sort of lo-fi stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing I could say, like that I really enjoy is I have focused a lot on working out what sort of tickles your fancy, like what makes you enjoy what you're doing and keep you giggling.
Yeah.
So I like to giggle, so I usually choose subject matter that cracks me up. So
you
if I
like animals.
love animals.
They're universal.
Animals are universal, yeah. Animals are fantastic.
You like, I'd say you like the kind of absurdity of everyday situations.
Yeah.
I don't want to put, but you know.
No, it's funny. I suddenly...
I'm writing your Wikipedia page here.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of, the thing of airline jokes and one's relatable jokes. And I always used to love improvising stand-up comedy. But I actually really like relatable comedy, like Jerry Seinfeld. And I also love Emo Phillips and absurd comedy. So I do appreciate both of them.
I was just watching some Emo Phillips the first
he's
time.
so funny.
Hey, you know, here's, I don't know.
Waiting for coleslaw.
Waiting for coleslaw.
Waiting.
I know the
waiting.
voice. I was trying to get the voice though. So I mean, you're probably best known as for this Clanimation thing because it's a lifetime of Clanimating. You've done you've done the series Robert and Sheepy, which is called The Pen, I think technically, isn't it?
Yeah.
He'd done the Hedgehog Speed Safety campaign.
Yeah.
You've done some work with Taika and Co for Eagle versus Shark. There was a web series called Woodville that I tried to look at the Claymation, but I couldn't see it.
Oh yeah, there were just little snippets of animated characters between it. That was all. Maybe the credits.
Dave Likes Art, Rowdy Roddy Ra, which was a TV3
Yeah, that was fun
show,
to do. Animals. I was doing Robin and Sheepy, but also animals footage was fun. I always loved it since
I'm trying to finish your intro, actually.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Sorry.
I should have done it earlier on. It's my issue. You've done 5 or 6 shows in the New Zealand Laugh Festival, including I think Cornham Sheet and Space Cats. We'll get to the Claymation in a sec, but I think you and I was trying to think today, like you say, man, time has actually passed. I think we met as undergrad students at Vic Uni, maybe?
Yeah.
Where are you from, Guy? Are you a Wellingtonian?
I'm a Wellingtonian. I think you're right.
What school did you go to?
I went to Rudolf Steiner School for the first sort of 6 years, and then Wellington High, and then Onslow College afterwards. So I think university we might have met. What about Wellington High?
Because we're Wellington High together.
See, we're Wellington High, and what happened was I left into third form and was skateboarding at Onslow College, and they had a bowl and stuff. So I left for that.
How are you a dates guy? Because I am. I can tell you what year I was third form. It was 89. Were you third form?
No. It was 88. Was third form.
Okay. So you went to Wellington High. So you dropped out before I got there.
I had to, yeah.
And so you left school in third form.
What's that?
So no other schooling after third form.
Oh no, I apologise. No, we went to Onslow and did 4th, 5th, 6th.
Oh, I was
and then I think left in 7th. No, because one thing was like I'd come from Rudolf Steiner was quite near the nature stuff, and Wellington High was actually a great high school. It was really good, and it was good for the arts, especially I think it had McLeod and Scott. The teachers were really good teachers.
Yeah.
But I was so into skateboarding, and I guess Onslow was good for me. I enjoyed it.
What's the relationship between skateboarding and Onslow?
Well, they have a bowl there. And
is that why you changed? That's awesome.
Yeah, I still skate. Yeah.
Do you still skate?
I still skate, yeah.
Yeah.
But not like wake up, have a piece of toast, grab the skateboard and go out the house. But I definitely skate still because I have a little dog now. So I have
you heard about that Lee Ralph doco?
Oh, yeah, I've seen a thing for it. Looked really awesome.
Looks really awesome.
Yeah, it looked really cool. He's an amazing skateboarder.
And so the art buzz, is that all through high school, or did you just suddenly discover?
Well, I got into it through Steiner, and so Rudolf Steiner had a lot of emphasis on art. So every morning, well, not every morning, but a lot of the mornings, you'd have paper that had been drenched in water, then put in front of you, and then you would get a brush and sort of like watercolor and start painting. So they had So they treated it quite seriously in a good way, and they had big, thick crayons, and the brushes and stuff were all really good. And so I think what I'm getting at is it made you appreciate enjoying a good old art session. And
I've heard different things about Steiner. You think it was an amazing school?
Yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time. I was sort of fortunate that I didn't have any religion in my family, and we were into Monty Python and Fawlty Towers. That was our religion. Yeah. Comedy, really.
Yeah.
And so, with any element of, I guess, Christianity and Rudolf Steiner stuff,
I didn't know.
Well, I didn't know either. Well, I didn't know, and I went there for. I say that, but I remember looking back. There were hymns and stuff.
There was a cross on the wall and hymns. Yeah.
Well, actually, in our room, I don't believe there was a cross. I actually don't think there was a sculpture.
So you folks, why Steiner? What was that?
Well, it's sort of like also like Montessori. They are a little bit different, but Montessori is sort of hands-on wash your own dishes sort of thing. I guess in the sense of making.
So that one prepares you for flatting.
Well, we were doing maths when we were. That was for sixth form math. Some of it we were doing through geometry when we were like 10 or 11. And that wasn't sort of that was just a thing where they were teaching geometry through using like, you've cut an apple in half and stuff, showing the geometry of seeds inside apples and stuff. So in a way, actually quite smart, because it's sort of like, if you landed on a planet, you go, okay, we're going to teach symmetry and geometry and maths to these little baby monkeys. How should we do it? And he goes, oh, well, Donald said that if you cut an apple in half, it's actually symmetrical. You should show them that. So that's pretty much, a lot of it was quite sort of common sense. Like one of the things, one of our teachers, Peter Truesdell, he was a great teacher, and he did worked with water. So, like the figure of 8, and it was sort of like making water not be stagnant. So there was a whole area of like future thinking ways of the environment and stuff. So it was quite environment. So it was a big connection of Dear Earth, Dear Sun stuff. But it was amazing that, looking back, I realised there were saints in the stories, but I never had a feeling ever
that you were being sort of brainwashed or anything.
No way. No, and a lot of teachers were with classes for 7 years or whatever. Yeah. So basically, I had 2, I think, over the period. But anyway, so I think that was the first start of appreciation for art.
So if not the religion thing, was it, I'm thinking of the era, kind of hippie vibe in the teaching staff?
No, in fact, almost the opposite. Like, I'd say that quite sincere. But so
hippies are not sincere. You heard it here, folks.
Well, no, I think it's my serious side coming out here. You see, but like, well,
it's good. It's good.
It's how you define things. If someone says, "Check out those hippies at the top of the hill dancing around the fire, spilling their lemon fizzy drinks," I guess my point is that like there's different definitions of hippie.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say like there were more higher percentage of woolly rainbow jumpers around you per capita of humans.
Well, that's kind of
hippie.
Yeah.
I hope so. Well, I guess I actually sort of saw, well, this was organised hippiness then, if that's the case. I mean, as an example, like a trained teacher with Rudolf Steiner would do, I don't know the exact amount, but they'd do more years of training, and it's a serious business. So, like, a lot goes into the holisticness of a teacher. So basically, you're not dealing with a naughty badger in your class. You're dealing with a plant. You're dealing with a human, and so there's a big responsibility.
Yeah, wow. Actually, now you mentioned that, I must have gone on. You know how you start off, you Google socks, and then you're watching British tank technology on YouTube, and then suddenly you're reading about Rudolf Steiner.
Or you're considering ordering a miniature one-off socks.
on Wikipedia, such as the internet time travel continuum. And I actually remember reading about the training, and where I work at AUT offers what you call, I guess, regular teaching and Steiner teaching. So it is a very different thing. We're going to spend the next hour on Steiner here. So just lastly, I'm really interested in, I like folks making, independent decisions, I guess. Did someone hand them a brochure? Have you ever asked them how they ended up sending you to?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. I think it was, they were doing sort of, they were doing sort of like co-counsel training and stuff, so sort of new age ways of therapy and counselling, I guess. And Dad had worked a lot with young people over in England, but I guess that
are they both still around?
Mum is. Papa died a couple of years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, that's all right.
Mum's still doing counselling stuff? Or?
No, she just finished a book called The Accidental Carer, which which is a book on how she sort of ended up looking after my father for a couple of years. So a good sort of guide for people that are having a family member who's dying and not really having the resources or skills. So that's called theaccidentalcarer.com, and that is where she sells a book that she's been developing. I think she might go, they're trying to organise for her to go to London to give a talk on it, and she's got a lot more support. So basically it's saying that there's not an area for people who are suddenly realising they're with a dying partner,
No.
What's the process? And I
Yeah.
think it must be very individual.
I can't believe there's not already. Yeah,
Well, I
that
think
sounds like good on her, man. That's
Yeah, well, it happens all in different countries in different ways. And
yeah.
of course, there's a lot of private hospitals, and there's a lot of private care, a lot of
Yeah.
private counselling. But it's more about just for a lot of people that don't know how to do it. Like, they have to sort of make it up as they go of their family. So that's cool. So she's doing that. And, yeah, so still doing that kind of
What
that
was
work.
she? What was she doing before she was an accidental
She was
carer?
well. She was a nurse as a young woman.
So she was a carer,
But-
right? So,
Yeah, but when only in her first couple of years, and then she was actually running workshops and women's management, and started Tall Poppies in Courtney Place in the 80s. That was like for women in management. So she did a lot of stuff. So anyway, so that was around sort of, and also Dad was a lecturer at Victoria in
Yeah.
counselling. Oh no, in social work.
Yeah.
And so they were around lots of new different ways of education. And I think Steiner had just only was about to get started. So we were like the first intake in Belmont,
Wow.
which was hilarious. And dressing up as dwarfs and lots of candle action and diamonds. It was hilarious. I loved
Yeah.
it. See, for me,
Yeah.
it was great because...
So an academic and a nurse, that's a great foundation for a life of art, me feels.
I reckon. I think, but I also think that you know, I don't know if you've heard mixed reports, but I think it's your personality, who your parents are, everything comes together for your experience of a school. So I
Yeah.
sort of think whether it's so-called not a very good school, or surely that depends on so many different factors.
I never set out with it. I just asked you. It sounds to me like have you had people kind of essentially give you shit about it?
No,
after
actually,
the
it's funny.
fact? Yeah,
That
yeah.
was actually that was a double situation of me going, well, actually, Brian, I wasn't insinuating you're insinuating that either. No, I was no. What I was thinking was that I had met people who said I didn't find it as good as you obviously did. So I mean, but surely that must have
But
everywhere.
then, hey, you could. I went to a state primary school. I could find classmates who said
yeah,
both as well. You know.
Well, it's interesting. Comedy, actually, like if you think of some state schools, made some people incredible people too. You know, because
Yeah.
comedy would get you through any school, whether a state school, Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, that's the other thing is adult monkeys are doing what they think's the best for these little monkeys, and some of them get it right, and some of them get it wrong.
You just made me remember a story I've never told before, except for I think I came home and told my mum, and she stuck up for me, bless her, or
Oh, yeah.
at least at home. It's to do with art and teaching and attitude. And Form 1 or Form 2, we had an art teacher at intermediate, and we had to draw an underwater scene. And I drew a Walkman on my octopus.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I got fully berated by the art teacher for taking the piss and not taking the class seriously.
And that was a state school.
Hey, it doesn't matter what kind of school it was. It was just a bad teacher, Mrs. Abbott.
Yeah,
Evans Bay Intermediate.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
What
there's
kind of,
a
what a
scene in
weird
The
thing to
Simpsons.
say, especially as an art teacher, you know.
Yeah, I think one thing is because that's a very traumatic and serious situation. Is also from a distance quite comical, because if you were in a cinema watching an animation of a kid drawing an octopus with a Walkman, and even the octopus comes alive with its little eyes giggling at the kid drawing him, and then you hear the smack of a ruler, or even just to stop doing that the audience is on your side, you know, right? You know, like, let him finish the octopus Walkman. And the comedy of someone saying, that's not what we're doing, is, you know...
I'm sure there's still bad teachers now. There will be bad everything to infinity. But I think I'd thought about that before. Like I think
You stopped me drawing octopuses.
I think late 80s, maybe early. You know, I think that was the last era of that old school teaching that was very authoritarian, and I'd like to think people have kind of developed a bit more since then in terms of how kids are handled. You know?
I think there must be a compassion front, because I still teach part-time animation, and I say that because, like, if you were teaching some of the hours that they did, or with the kids they had, it'd sort of be like someone becomes a policeman to help out the community, and then ends up with crazy kebab throwing, can breaking, freaky stuff. Going, come on, guys, put the rubbish bin back down, and you know what I mean. So so what I'm saying is that some teachers probably, like the night before that octopus situation, she was probably with someone going, well, going to university to look at the fish that have been drawn by Kempt, one of the famous drawers of fish.
Yes.
And the next morning she sees one of his students drawing a cartoon octopus, and the character going, "Stop that, that's not what we're doing. Me and my friend Edwin have been talking about proper drawing, and that's not proper drawing." So, there must be that's the funny thing.
That's very forgiving of you guys.
Well,
you just looked at that scenario from the audience angle, the teacher's angle.
Well, I think it would be
my angle.
hilarious if right now she's somewhere going, and then, of course, I stopped that cartoon boy. Cartoon boy was trying to get a career in octopus drawing, but not with me. I stopped him. I did the right thing.
Listeners to my podcast, I think it's come up before teaching, not the octopus incident, but teaching in general.
Just teach sometimes.
And what you mentioned about rubbish bins and kebabs and so on, and just being ground down by the frickin' job.
Well, how about
Fourth
this?
form. Fourth form is my whatever it's called now, is my take of the year at the absolute bottom of the pile of the one I'd ever teach. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
You remember what everyone is like in fourth form?
Yeah.
It's like, how far can we push this?
Well, I think if you're a teacher, you just focus on the school camp that's coming, don't you?
Yeah.
So throughout those weeks. No, that would be hard. I mean, that is like trying to fry an egg while you're being pushed around on top of a bus underwater. Yeah, that would be quite tricky.
So animation. So how do you discover this this portal to this clay world?
Well, I reckon I was lucky enough to see some. My brother was an animator, so I think that helped a lot. That he was 4 years older than me. Yeah, he was 4 years older than me, and so he was already doing computer stuff and starting to get into animation and more. And so anyway, so that's sort of. And I was a skateboarder, and then he started working in a video production house, and that's where...
Hang on, so computer video production house, what does it look like back then? A big machine that does
big
very
machines.
little compared to now?
Yeah, like there were these things called Topaz.
Where are we, mid-90s?
There was there was 1990.
Wow.
And there'd be like this big tablet that he was using to do stuff like 3D Max, I think, was around then.
Yeah.
And that was But then that turned more into video. But then there was a thing where in these production houses you could get a Betacam and you could push in point 002, out point 003. So what it meant was, unlike an 8mm camera, that you could get frame accurate animation. So that was the thing.
Right.
So these production houses had these machines that could get frame accurate animation. So I could actually get the sense of the movement right. Otherwise, you'd have to shoot even like say 35mm or something crazy.
So something just to interrupt you
because the frame rate you see is wrong.
Well, just for a sec to interrupt you, for anyone perhaps younger listening, access to such technology in 1990 compared to now, so to actually for you to actually be able to use that gear, you're well on your way. So you discover that you started off with skateboarding vids, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
skateboarding videos, yeah.
But then the frame-by-frame thing, obviously...
Well, that's when I guess... So then I got up to the age of 15, and that's when I first probably saw Wallace and Gromit stuff, when I saw Aardman stuff, and they'd already been doing... And I'd already, as a kid, seen other stuff. But...
Morph.
Yeah,
Morph's actually early Aardman. I never knew till recently.
That's right, yeah. So that stuff there. And so, then I just started doing that in the studio, and I just sort of fell in love with it. I just thought it was hilarious to see characters mutating into other characters, and also because they weren't human, they were quite funny to me. And then Creature Comforts was sort of a whole genre, which is Robert and Sheepy sort of came from, was animals talking. And also I think that for me also the biggest influence was probably also Gary Larson.
Yeah.
So like you've got this mix of all of these different, and I could almost say Andy Kaufman as well.
Subversive humour, everyday situations with a touch of surreality, animals, magic package,
and timing, comic timing.
Yeah.
And so I think those things. If someone said what makes you excited or happy, I'd probably say all of those things.
Have you seen the schedule?
Read it.
Well, 11 a.m. we're eating grass.
Yep.
11:30, more grass. 11:45, looking around confused, and then 12 o'clock we've got lunch.
What's for lunch?
Today we were grass, and then after that,
Bleaching?
bleeding's at 5.
Oh, okay, fine.
Early start tomorrow.
What time?
5 a.m.
Oh. Oh, that's early.
Oh, that is early.
That is early, mate. Mind you, we always start at 5 a.m.
That's ridiculously early.
Ridiculously early, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, I hate the schedule, but I would be lost without it.
What do we do now?
What's the time?
10:35.
Okay. We've got to go and do little poos under the tree.
Oh, okay.
Come on, let's go.
Let's go.
And also, with some mediums, like I want to get back into more painting again, and some mediums are quite trying, they're quite frustrating, challenging. You know, like if someone says, hey, do you want to help me paint some ceramics? You're like, oh, that better turn out well, it'll be a waste of 6 hours, better get fed well, you know? That's an interesting example. Well, actually, now I want to do it. I mean, I'd like to glaze ceramics, but I'm talking about, well, comedy is like you go, right, that's it, world, I'm learning to paint. And they run out and get acrylics, and they go, oh, this looks great. It looks really good what you're doing, Jim. And then it dries, and it looks shit. You know, it's like acrylic. You know how they dry? Like, you know, when you're at school, like, the rich colours. And they go, come and have a look what I drew. And then it's dried, it's like, dun, dun. It looks like dried mud. And that's why, like, oil paints, of course, oil paints, the Mercedes of paints, is they do have that wonderful...
They retain the illustrious
They're
sheen.
awesome, yeah. And of course, good Liquitex, you know, good high quality acrylics. So I don't want to come from complete ignorance. I'm just saying that a lot of paints that are a bit cheaper, they dry badly.
We're losing the clay thread. You just made me think of something about clay I've never thought to ask before, though. Or plasticine. Is it plasticine or clay? What is it? Modelling
Exactly.
clay?
So annoying. It's like called
I didn't even want to mention Aardman
fish
until
killer,
you
but
did.
it's
'cause
actually a vegan who
want to-
hunts nuts
didn't
because
want-
there's no clay.
So it's plasticine.
Well, some people use clay to be devil's advocate, but most of it's plasticine or plastilina or Spanish plasticine.
You mentioning colour made me realise. Do you buy all the different colours? You don't colour
Well,
it after
that's
the
the
fact.
other thing. I mean, like one of the things that got me into it was when I was younger. I thought, well, I could potentially become quite a serious person, and I thought, well, if I got into plasticine as an adult, I'd have like little lumps of plasticine around me or little eyeballs. There's no way, right? You go, what's going on here? Like, it's like, that's an eyeball, sir, that you made. You made an eyeball last night, remember? No, I don't. And, you know, so, or there's some...
I'm off to teach
Who
art.
left blue plasticine on top of the table? And so I think that's great. You've got to have that until you're an old man or lady.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just one of my ceramics that I broke.
So you were sourcing in 1991 coloured quality plasticine from somewhere.
Yeah, well, I was just fortunate enough that they sold plastilina, plasticine, which is Spanish plasticine. And if you got that fresh before it got crumbly, and it was at Golding's...
Webbs or somewhere like that in Wellington, no?
Golding's Handcrafts. I've learned to edit myself because I really enjoyed Golding's Handcrafts, and they were a great shop, and I think they still exist. But I don't discuss other art shops.
Okay.
Just because, you know, who knows?
So they got a young kid coming in.
But Golding's Handcrafts is a good one.
So they got a young kid probably coming in dumping what's relatively a large amount of money on plasticine for someone his age.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there were sort of...
Or do you just keep reusing it?
No, I think they laughed because I bought lots of eyeballs as well. So I'd go through and buy sets of eyes. Because the process was funny as well, you know.
What kind of eyeballs? Not stick on googly
Well, you
ones.
can get different types. You can get different ones. And it's funny, sometimes you'll get a set of eyes and you just get emotional, mate.
Yeah.
You just get those, those are the seal eyes.
What do you do with those?
I'm gonna cry. But no, they're so beautiful, like puppy eyes.
So
And then you wrap plasticine around them, and they look insane. Like a lot of the first claymations were almost like, one of them was called Lemon Dreams, and it was just like, a mad experience because it was plasticine and the eyes were crazy, and obviously it didn't look like realistic people. So what's he doing? And then they were just coming towards the camera with their arms out going, ah! And then there'd be a head melting into another head. And that was around the time also that I saw Eraserhead, of course, so I had that influence of David Lynch's stuff. And I knew that, like, you can emulate an artist, but in the end, I guess it's probably true, find your own voice. That's a British voice. What about your voice?
So you go from watching Creature Comforts to actually producing this stuff. There's no internet. There's no YouTube tutorials.
There's no mud, no water, no milk.
No, I had to walk 1,000 miles.
Just a photo of a burger.
That's right. And so do you just go look at it and go, this is how they must be doing it?
That's it.
Or is there
That's the
or is there, or is
$1
there
million
or is there 2 books in the Wellington Public Library?
You do yoga for 5 years and
Yeah.
it comes to you in a flash.
Yeah, that's right.
Move like this, move like that, lip sync like that. No, I mean, get a bottle.
Did you write a hand?
I don't
did
drink,
you write a
but
hand,
get a bottle of wine and I'll get you animating.
Did you write a handwritten letter to Aardman?
No, well, look, I mean, you can basically just tell. It's like if someone says, draw that man over there sitting down right
Yeah,
now, and you
yeah.
draw it and you go, oh, it's terrible. Try again. And so it is a bit like that. So, I mean, with movement, so say if a character's standing in front of the camera and their hand's going to raise and then they're going to draw on a blackboard, that the first time you do it, you might move the hand, hand might stop too quickly, and then it's too fast drawing.
Yeah.
And so you just work out all that timing stuff, which is really great because it's sort of self-explanatory, like, well, almost like if you were doing landscape pictures, that sort of speak. If you're up close, that doesn't look like a mountain, of course, but if you're far back, it looks photorealistic. So it's that kind of stuff with movement. So you learn looping, like a character clapping. So you'd have a character clapping that looks like
Save
it's
you the
clapping.
labour of keeping doing it because that'd be ridiculous. You just loop that bit to make.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
but then and then there's lots of ways to settle that. So that usually the challenge comes up where you see a loop and then you see a little ear flick, so it looks like a loop flick. But if you've got a character that's made up of 5 different elements, meaning 5 different layers,
Do you mean like
you won't
mean
notice it.
movements?
You
Oh,
won't
no, I
notice
see,
it.
I
That's
see,
the
I
whole
see,
thing. So
I
it's
see.
all sort of hidden within it. But the stop motion is more about. Well, I heard something recently, which was actually from David Hockney, who's awesome, right? He's awesome in so many ways. And like in the interview, they were quoting basically a Japanese style of doing art, and I don't think it was just calligraphy or Zen, but it was basically saying that so vision, hand, and heart, and so this is so deep, man, it makes me want to cry. But basically, so drawing, of course, and technique with your hand, good work of your hand, and then the way you see things. And then the heart. So the heart would be, like, just saw that Vincent van Gogh exhibition in Melbourne, and that would be an example of where Dennis has done a picture of flowers, Vincent's done a picture of flowers. Which one looks like it's got more heart? So I think that's a good way to put it. Not a competition, but it is interesting because you walk into rooms, you go, is that an original boring flower? Yes, it's an original. It was originally painted in 10 minutes of a flower.
How many frames a second were you doing early on with this claymation? Is it 4 movements a second, 2?
So it's 20. It's 12 movements per second usually,
Jeepers.
which means that each.
So even back in those early days, you were doing 12 a second.
Well, some of those ones I was actually 25.
Wow.
But they looked ridiculous. So basically, because
So
that's how you learn.
Well, that's proper. That's normal film frame per second, isn't it? 25.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No. I don't
I
know.
mixed up.
We're getting too boffiny.
No, so
but I'm basically meaning.
so you know how I said move at 12 movements.
Yeah.
So that means there's 2 frames for every movement.
Yeah.
But what I was saying was there'd be ones where it would be every frame. So there'd be 25 different photos for 1 second, rather than the same photo
I'm
twice.
trying to remember what's filmed. 24 frames a second, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 12. I got the maths. I'm there with you. So 12 movements a second.
Yeah, but what would you like if you were to animate for a few hours or a few days or a few weeks? You'd start to giggle at seeing basically the ramping concept. So basically, with a train comes to a slow halt, and so that's the theory of like you'd move a centimetre. The next movement, you'd move 1.25 centimetres, and the next one would be 1.5 centimetres. Now, if the next one was under 1.5 centimetres, is how you get your jittery. Doesn't make sense. So
man, this is. Whew.
So if a hand goes like that, then basically it starts from a starting position, and then depending of how fast the hand's going, but basically it ramps. So it goes one small movement, then a big movement, and then sometimes the same amount in the middle, and then starting to slow down. So that's sort of like ramping.
So we're still trying to figure out, at least pre-internet, how you figured all this out. Just trial and error.
Totally trial and error.
No animation documentaries. No books from the library.
No, you don't. I mean, in the end, it's pretty sort of like, it is self-explanatory. So if you've got a character holding a glass, and then you take a frame, and then you move the glass a little bit in the hand, now you'll see when you play, because the thing is, you've got to have enough frames to see it move.
Yeah.
So that's what most people didn't get up to. So once you've, say, got like 70 frames, you can see that little movement. So that's the thing. So you don't really see it till afterwards. But in the digital world, it's so fun, because in the old days you'd almost have to be like.
So what changes?
It's good English. So much fun.
That's fine.
It's loud. So basically, that heart thing I just quite liked, because you can see work where it's personal, of course, but I'd see a piece of work and just don't find it's alive, or I don't find the character it's believable, or you can tell the emphasis is on the soundtrack or not.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all of those elements to it. And it would sort of be like having, and this would be an analogy for lots of art, like a record produced badly, where you get the meal and you've got the most exquisite pasta you've ever had. The sauce is amazing, and you've got frozen fake prawns.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of, say, with animation with Heart. So Heart would almost be...
fresh prawns.
I just found it was just like a decade of experimenting. Like I would say, and same with music, right? Like DJing looks like fun, but it just looks like it must be a lot of experimenting and enjoying the nuances of it.
Well, just if you keep on doing something, eventually, it's like riding a bike, I guess, isn't it?
And it would be like same was with.
And you know what? It's funny you say that with creative stuff. Like since you and I kind of came on up, there's been an explosion of these courses kind of teaching creativity, which is great. But I think there's something to be said about kind of spotting something you like and getting in there and just trying to kind of figure it out yourself at first.
Yeah, totally. Look,
No,
totally.
And we both teach, so I'm kind of maybe shooting myself in the foot a little bit here. But I remember even back in the day, now you mentioned the DJ things, people saying, can you kind of show me how to do it? I'm like, well, I kind of can to an extent, but I kind of don't know how to. It's kind of like you just get in there and...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also... I think the teaching, being taught and teaching is really good. So it sort of goes both ways, I think.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's what I'm saying.
And I think that... it's interesting what you're saying with that teacher, that people have that experience of saying, the don't draw the octopus thing. But in some ways, like, it also potentially makes you... go hard out on octopus. Don't draw the octopus! Well, you go on octopuses, because what I'm trying to say is there's still a good, we're just looking at you, maybe 40, 50 years left. So I guess the point is that the so-called negative can become the positive. So it's like, I think a lot of people, what I like to think, if they were really crap at something when they were younger, they privately or just publicly just master it, whatever for, but just because it felt good to do that. But I was just say, finding something you love and getting good at it, I sort of think I'm still, I'd say, an okay animator, but there's so many good animators that work on. I've only done little bits on those features, and they were only small bits of stop motion.
Yeah.
But I've really, I just sort of think it's like a chef, where you decide, what part do I get into? Fish, culinary, cutlery, desserts, fine wines. Use that fire too. But basically, for me, it's
apparently desserts are the hardest. Apparently,
to quit eating.
No, it's chef. There's a name for that. There's a name for that chef. So some chef will be screening. No, there's a name for the. Is it a pastry chef?
Oh yeah. No, we should know this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an
I'm
art form there.
Quiet.
So look, I honestly, since you first made me aware of Robert and Sheepy, the way I've tried to keep the flame alive is I show it to at least one class a year, even if it doesn't call for anything to do with animation. I find a way to fit them in.
Which episode?
I pick them at random. I often show the one where
random. I'll write that one down.
Where Robert tries to say that he's going to beat up Darren the bull.
Oh yeah, that's
but
great.
Darren's I would have wasted him, that one.
Yeah, that is wasted. That has wasted him.
Yeah, wasted him.
I'm so annoyed, Robert. I am seriously going to waste him.
Who?
Darren the bull.
Are you really going to bloody waste him?
Am I going to waste him? Yes, I'm going to waste him. I'm going to pummel him. You can't go around mouthing off stuff about how I look like a pie talking. There's going to be fire, hooves, blood, lightning. Oh, and Darren, if you're listening, I'm ready to fight you. I'm going to throw him around. I'm going to do a form of anger. I'm going to do everything.
Hey, Darren.
No. Oh, hi, Darren. No, not... I think he's got... Not... I've just been trying to say before there must have been 2 Darrens. Hi, Darren. No, not him. It's Darren. He's fine. Hello, Darren.
That was Darren the Bull.
That was Darren just then.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you just make that clear to me? I didn't... Oh, if that was Darren, I could have wasted him just then, couldn't have I? Darren, see if he can come back. I'll do it. Darren.
Yeah.
Same thing again. Sorry about that, Darren. Wrong one.
So is that your? I mean, it's probably the most well known of what you've done. But is that your kind of? That's your. What's the expression? Your. Is that the project you put the most in to date? Because it's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, the truth
How
of
did
that
it come
episode,
about? I'll ask all the questions at once.
Yeah, the one thing was that episode was actually animated by ants. And so
A person?
that's
Not
his name.
okay.
And so he's a really good animator. So he animated that one, and that was when we were animating about 8 of them, I think, for that show.
Yeah.
So
But hang on, what do you mean? You're the animator?
I do the voice. No, so that episode he animated,
right.
which was brilliant.
But you animated some of them, right?
Yeah, I think that's funny.
But you actually drew the mouse. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
came up with Mickey, but you drew the mouse, didn't you?
No, I can't move.
And so you roped Jermaine in, and I'm assuming that's because
Well, he wrote
again we must have been in that period at uni that you met him.
Well, I met him through doing stand-up comedy, and
Yeah.
I was teaching animation. And then he said, "Let's do something, maybe." And then we formed the two sheep idea. I think it was cool too because I think it was 1998, 1999. We started animating them and then entered them in 2000 to the Nescafe. And
Robin Sheep go back to 2000.
yeah, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, 1999.
Wow.
And we were tiny little people. We were little man going, "What about a sheep idea?" And but I always liked Peanuts too. So I guess I was saying to the thing of what you love was you're pretty lucky if you become an old person and you love your little characters, because I from a young age tried to find out how do you avoid the trauma of some arts, and I guess some like stage shows, you're with your family working or you're touring, and then when the tour stops, that's like, oh no, what got to do? So basically, with characters, you can continuously evolve and develop them. So like Simpsons,
Yeah.
it's so well written and just so well made, but I could only watch.
So have you followed it all the way
No,
through?
not at all.
I
No,
sort of come and go.
I haven't. I like The Simpsons. I guess it's just that it's more the colours, because the colours are so similar. That's why I can't do it. If I could turn the TV off and listen, it would be good.
Yeah.
It's so well done. I mean, it's continuously just brilliant.
Are you saying it visually starts to irk you after a while?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like colours. Like, let's say, without naming a restaurant out there that sells burgers.
Did you have dinner before you came here? You're going into all these food metaphors.
Oh no, I did just come.
Oh, okay,
from
good.
dinner, yeah.
Oh no! And the prawns were fresh, and the pasta was the most
Yeah,
beautiful pasta you've
the
ever
prawns
eaten.
were frozen.
Yeah.
Oh no! Well, I actually think food is a good analogy.
Yeah,
So
it's universal.
Food is, yeah, it's a good analogy
It's
for
like
stuff
animals.
like you think of a good album you like, right? And
Yeah.
then if that was compared to a salad, it would have a bit of feta, it would have olives, it would have walnuts, and it's got all that shit in it, right?
Red onion.
Red onion, and also maybe something that your friend doesn't like to watch their face going. Oh,
That's right. That's the challenging bit of the salad album. Hey, back to the peanuts.
Banana. Don't put banana.
Back to peanuts. I read this fascinating article the other day. Again, things you end up reading on the internet where you set off somewhere else, and it was about how I'd never thought about it till I read it. How the Peanuts was great and really subversive and sort of quite dystopian about adults and so on. And then at the end, Schultz kind of started concentrating on Snoopy, and it all got a bit sort of a bit wetter. Did you notice that it sort of changed over the years?
Well, I'm going to write it down as a note to self.
I'll find the article and I'll send it to you. But it's sort of like
Well, I think
because it's quite a bleak cartoon in those early years. I don't know if bleak's the right word, but
yeah, well, the whole sort of football season's over sort of stuff.
and Charlie always getting kicked when he's, I think what happens? No. Lucy always removes the ball when he runs to kick it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I guess one word would be futility, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the futility of life. And
Yeah, growing up, I liked Peanuts. I liked Garfield. I was a big Garfield guy.
yeah, I Garfield was right up there. But looking back on some of that dialogue, and I hated it when I'd see on the internet why Garfield's writing sucked, and deep down I was going, oh,
You mean
maybe it's
John
right.
Davis, the guy that...
Well, no, Jim Davis.
Jim Davis, sorry.
Yeah, it's so funny correcting
What do
John
you mean?
from
His-
Jim.
his-
It's Jim.
his-
It's Jim Davis.
His writing sucked.
Well, no, I don't,
internet.
just like you realise that when you're young, it was all a hoot. You know, Garfield was a hoot because I just loved how he loved lasagna and stuff.
Well, I
right?
look back at it and
He made me love lasagna more.
There was lasagna, but then there was the other stuff, who he actually was. I was like, man, I was a cynical kid to be really into Garfield. Like, I like this kind of like,
Yeah,
Fuck you, fuck the world, you know?
Yeah, no, true. I didn't always see it like that. I think also,
oh, totally, that's his thing. He's a cynical.
yeah.
He's like
But the thing is, it's
he's
interesting.
like a life critic.
I'm trying to think of like me and you would probably have followed Ninja Turtles if it stayed the same until it
I never
turned
wasn't
into
really a Ninja
well,
Turtles
always,
guy.
well, if the originals.
It passed me by.
Yeah, the originals. Yeah, the originals before they started having pizzas every 3 seconds.
Right.
Then it just turned into a big pizza festival. It was kind of funny. It was sort of like
That's the food again.
it'd be like Akira, you know, that film of all the motorbikes, and then suddenly they're just passing each other pizzas from bike to bike. That's what it felt like. I always think it's funny when he goes, "You ruined my character that you created by adding pizzas."
Who says that?
Cowabunga.
Dude.
No, we're just creators of things. They turn them into.
Wasn't it originally a
Sausages.
graphic novel?
Well, that's what I mean. It
Oh,
was
sorry, we
really
called them
full on.
comic books
It was
back then.
really full on. It was really full on
Yeah.
comic. But it wasn't because it was gross to me. It was just really well written, and then it just sort of got Disneyed up a bit.
Oh, so there was a comic book before there was the TV show.
Oh yeah.
Because that's
Hey, put that down as a note. Put down. I think it's Eastman is the writer, but
Yeah.
but if you look
no
up the
one's
first,
ever given me notes before. Thanks, Eastman. Yeah, Teenage
Eastman,
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yeah, you should. Yeah, notes are good.
Yeah, you know that brought up another thing for me. That whole, and it relates to Garfield and the Turtles is that whole beauty of like something like that being in your mind's eye, and then it goes on screen, and you're like, I don't want Garfield's voice to sound like that.
Well, that's
I
very
don't want the
funny.
Ninja Turtles to be all like,
Well,
yo,
that's-
dude, like California
That's
Surfer
great.
Bros.
That's where you
Yeah.
get great characters. I mean, an audience would love to see a frustrated character who's annoyed that his favourite giraffe cartoon has now been turned into a CGI giraffe movie with kids yelling out how much they love the giraffe that you know better. You know
Do
that
you
giraffe.
think? I think you were angling towards a new claymation series about a frustrated podcaster whose life was turned bad by
I like it.
Form 2 art class with the octopus and the headphones,
Yeah.
and then I've lost the last bit. You said
Well, the
it
other
was,
thing is that's in the story. That's your juice. I mean, that those problems are actually at the end of the Robin Williams Dead Poets Society film. You become the winner because you utilised the pain and turned it into a graphic novel, which got you all this power to build a bridge that you can
then
go across and across each
so I
way.
could jump on a desk at some point and motivate people as well.
Well, no,
That'd
I
be great.
think like I mean, you're very still young, so I mean, there's. I guess what I'm saying is there's lots of time for that. It'd be a lot more nasty if someone said, "God, you're crap at rugby," and you actually could have been an All Black. So I guess what I'm saying is, if it's drawing, you're sweet as man.
Have you had total like Uber geeks kind of track you down online because you work with Jermaine and or Taika? How hardcore does that fandom go? Because they attract those sort of people now, don't they?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I had a few people contacts, but they were more sort of interested in Robin and Sheepy. It wasn't usually details of those sort of well-known people. But no, I haven't.
How does Robert and Sheepy? How's it gone since I fell madly head over heels in love with it? Like I noticed you got it on Australian TV. How'd that happen?
So we had a few contacts over there who were interested in playing them on ABC,
Yeah.
and so then we sold them to ABC, and then we had Air New Zealand wanting to play them, and then recently Air New Zealand playing more of them, newer ones,
Yeah.
and so right now I'm in the middle of making new episodes that we've got so many that we've recorded.
With
and-
still with Jermaine being
Yeah.
Sheepy. No, Robert. No, Sheepy.
Yeah, he's
Sheepy.
Robert.
Robert. I always get it the wrong way around.
Yeah, so him,
Yeah.
Robert, and so Yeah, so we just keep animating on them, and hopefully we'll get at some stage a series. But right now it's just me animating, and I might get a few people to help put a few more out. But right now we've got a few episodes that are sort of that we fine tune and edit as I'm right now animating an episode.
You don't strike me as someone too fussed about kind of business and money and stuff. And I don't want you don't have to mention figures at all because that's ridiculous. But is something like Air New Zealand a nice little thing to get in terms of keeping you going for a little while longer? Do they offer you something worth your while? Or?
Yeah, no, I think bigger campaigns would. I would say that there's a difference from purchasing material or commissioning material.
Yeah.
So I think that from what I've heard, like say with Netflix, you would do better financially if you were commissioned to make a series than if you were to sell them a series. So putting it that way. So if you did a
But
TV,
Air New Zealand don't commission content really, except for ads.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, So that's probably where you do it. I guess. I guess once again, that's why it's the love of it. I mean, many cartoons or animations we loved weren't.
But we live in Auckland, and we've got to sort of pay bills and stuff. And
yeah, that's right. Well, I guess that's where sometimes part-time teaching comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I could chase probably commercials more, but I guess in some ways, for years I've been trying to get a lifestyle where I could do more individual projects. So I have quite a few sort of projects.
Have you achieved that lifestyle?
Yeah.
Feels like you have.
Yeah, I actually have. Yeah,
That's awesome.
I have, except for making really good money. So I think
we just it's a
but,
nice way to round all that
but
off.
once again, like I just I've never been really about that.
No,
And-
you don't even.
I guess also,
um,
like I just always said, look, if you keep your main goal as working on things that make you laugh heaps, then that's such a good place to be because you're always cultivating, which doesn't mean you can't take things seriously.
So how many more Robert and Sheepy episodes are getting made? It's exciting.
I don't know, 50?
No.
Yeah, I reckon 100.
Bullshit. How many you got now?
About 20.
Cool.
Yeah.
So they'll be ready, what, by the end of July?
End of the week, mate.
Okay, cool.
But no, I like that laugh. That's a good motivator. Another frame shot. 2 hours later.
Yeah.
But no. So
Yeah, we didn't get to that. People are interested in this. Just the Boffin, last of the Boffin stuff. How long would a minute take you to do?
Depends how much lip sync. So if the character was going, I'm from Swaziland and I like to eat fish and chips and to do boogie boarding.
Yeah.
If you had that, it would take quite a while to it. But if your character was going, oh, I'm tired, then that would be easy to animate. So that's literally the reality of it. So basically, if you've got a Roger Rabbit character talking all the time, you're going to be sitting there for months trying to make him talk. But if he's going, I don't think that I could. So you've got up and down mouth, and then you've got more exact lip sync. So, I mean, we all fell in love, apart from a few grumpy people, with Wallace and Gromit's lip sync. So the lip sync was so brilliant that it was just like it was like magic. Like I thought it was magic. I went, this is amazing. Like it was so good because it was just so good. And it was lip sync that we'd never seen. So I think the first stop motion... Cheese Gromit. That I've heard it in Japanese. Gromito. I've heard translations.
What's Japanese cheese?
But, true. I got Gromito. But, so 18...
Cheese Gromito.
1897, like it's the first stop motion, which I think was, what's the one?
Not the
with
moon, not the torpedo into the moon.
No, that's one of them. That was different. That was with a chalkboard as well. No, but it was Humpty Dumpty.
Right. Oh, I've seen that.
Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah. Quite a disturbing Humpty Dumpty.
It was quite disturbing.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, so that lip sync was amazing. So that's what I fell in love with. And I was originally sort of doing acting and stuff.
Come back to the mic.
I was doing acting and improvising. I found, like when I was younger, like when I was 11 or 12. But then when I came across animation, I just thought it was so funny, man. And that's why I started doing stand-up, because then I could enjoy doing stand-up comedy. And then at night time, and then in late night time animate, and then a daytime animate, and then do stand up. So it was so
What's
different.
happened to stand up? You're not doing it at the moment, are you?
Well, no, I love stand up comedy and look forward to doing more stand up comedy. But I also loved not having to do stand up comedy and just be out in the bush and animate little models and listen to music.
I know you live miles away now, but I need someone to go to stand up comedy with at some stage. We've got to do that. I want to go to see what the open mic scene's like at the Classic. See if it's terrible. How'd you go with stand up? Did you get some
Did you get some laughs?
Get some shows,
I got some of the laughs and I put them in a bucket.
Did you get some laughs? Is the
I
best
put
question.
them in the bag.
How did your stand-up career go? Did you get any laughs?
Here's another laugh.
Yeah.
I think stand-up comedy is awesome. I think
it's incredible.
It's edgy. It's on the edge. It's like you're on fire.
I think that's one of the last true. We talk about freedom of speech in a democracy. I think it's one of the last places you can just get up on stage and say what the fuck you want about how you see the world.
Yeah, or
just surrealist rants with plasticine.
Yeah, with surrealist. Yeah, that's right. No, I love stand-up comedy. I think also there's that saying, what is it? You know, if you're not always, I wasn't enjoying it. I definitely did some super loose shows with great results, and super loose shows with not as the results you'd want sometimes. And I think that sort of made me go...
Well, super loose mean I'll just go on and make this up as a go?
Well, you just have... Yeah, totally. But I mean, you would have nights where that was the most fun and exciting.
So you never write before you go on and do stand-up?
No, I'd basically...
Wow, there's not many people like that.
But I had like, say, 6 points. So like I would have points that I would go to. So between every 10 minutes, there would be something I knew that I was going to discuss. And also a character and stuff, and the rest was just.
But you don't strike me as like you wouldn't be like a social commentary politics guy. No, you just.
No, I don't know. Not interested. I'm more into riding courgettes on top of buses and stuff, and texting your arm.
Who would you
texting your arm to move, please?
Who
stopping people going into zoos, confuse everybody.
Who can you draw any similarities with other stand-up comedians? With your,
it's impossible.
It's impossible.
No, I just love lots of other stand-up comedians. But anyway, coming back to that, I love. Look, I can say happily that I love stand-up comedy, and I look forward to doing more stand-up comedy. But I also knew that I went, well, what's the most awesome thing that you could do? And I said, well, probably to have lots of time near nature, animate models, record character voices, and animate little films. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. So, I mean, I like living in cities, I like living in nature right now. So I think that's the truth of it. So I can't wait to stand up again and do a season of comedy. But I guess my point is, like, it's nice when you're in control of your life, where you can, you know, focus on what... Like, again, I see, if you said to me, what would you really like to do, is what I'm trying to do. So, you know, which would be making models, animating, having lots of hours to do voices and stuff. And so I've sacrificed a lot of, say...
Do you have a little recording set up at home for the voices?
Yeah.
That's
that's
cool.
the best. I mean, like, here a little bit. But I was going to say, not as... Yeah, a bit different, but a bit more raw. But just like... Yeah, like, say, teaching. So I'll teach right now once a week. And it used to be like 4 times.
Where do you teach?
I teach in Taringa. I teach animation to kids using iPads. Like
how old are the kids?
Oh, they vary from 7 to 11 to 12.
Oh man, they'd love you. You'd be great for that.
It's real fun. It's real fun. We do blinking.
You go from the maths guy to you know?
Yeah, I tried a video game class which needed work, but that was funny.
What do you mean making video games?
Well, because these days you can have templates where the student draws the characters and then you just drop them into the template and their little character that they've drawn is running around.
And what happened? You sounds like it didn't go so well.
Oh, it was more that they were after-school classes and you needed to have, like, intensive sort of 5-hour session and you'd come in for 90 minutes.
And they'd be baked after school.
And not just that, you're programming. And if you've got, like, 9 kids...
Yeah.
And one kid's having a problem and you're helping them, then the others are waiting, and it's actually just like how traffic's created. Yeah. When Bird slows down. But what I'm saying is it would probably work better if you had an assistant overhead projector and then you're pimping it up a bit. So the other one's more fun.
Where were you doing that one?
Well, I do them like community houses and stuff.
Oh, so you just set it all up yourself and then get people in? That's so
cool.
Yeah.
I've done that for years in that area. But so that gets me out of...
So you just you just ring the local community centre and say, can I have a room for after school? And then you put a little sign
Well,
up
I actually worked with a
online
guy
and-
earlier with cartooning, so I started, but then I was always going to be doing claymation, but I started with that. So I learnt how to basically do all the costs per term. That was the hardest thing, is how much do you charge to make it worthwhile?
Worthwhile for them, worthwhile for you.
That's
yeah.
right, that's
I mean,
right.
I guess couldn't you get funding for that sort of thing to make it good work for everyone?
Well, I did that. I did some a few funding things when it was in less well-off places in Auckland where I ran workshops
cool.
for young people. But I think that that was good. That was good.
Have you had any holy fucking shit moments where you go, this kid's gonna this kid's got it, you know?
Well, it's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because you see moments of really good minds,
Yeah.
of really good ideas. But what's kind of freaky is you learn about yourself, because I believe it's people who can sort of add water to ideas that become alive, right? So people will come up with ideas, and then it's whoever waters them and adds the compost and grows the little plant idea. So what I'm saying is that a lot of kids, I've gone, whoa, like such trippy, good, funny ideas, but then to make them, it can be tricky. So they might not have the attention span to make all the characters they want in their film, but on the first day that's their film. And so that's when you'd want to do it over 8 days. So that's the challenge with lots of classes. I think if there was an intensive claymation, you do it over a sort of a weekend, watching a few films for a few hours, or even over 5 days, and you'd get more from that than a month.
I think you could do that, man. I don't see why you couldn't. Maybe with that bit more intensive program, you try one aiming for a bit of an older.
Yeah, well,
I'd try something like claymation
yeah, exactly.
later in life. You know,
it's $25,000 for the 5 days, and there's croissants.
Yeah,
no, but I was going to say that
there's pasta with fresh.
I started teaching adults, and then started teaching. I taught teenagers and kids, so I guess all different ages. But the other thing again is that I'm doing a few little projects that are stop motion. Yeah, in the right time to teach like that. Because I thought about sometimes you go more into. I try to focus more on my own projects than going full on.
Yeah,
teaching, which is
as you say, something that you've got as an enjoyable backup if you need to sort of.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, it gets you out of the studio and you're giving back. I think that's
right.
And there's you affect. I was affected by so many people. That it's nice that you can get people animating or creating little films with iPads, especially with technology being how it is that they can make quite amazing stuff. And when you said that, like what the TF thing you said, what the TF, with what a talented person is that I can tell that a lot of the parents can see these things in the students already, or their kids going, he's so good at this or so good at that. But I think that it's the thing of everybody is completions, isn't it? So it's almost like you have compassion for yourself and everybody when it comes to ideas that you've got to do. I mean, painting's a classic one. Painting's so funny because you can be in a bar or not, or at a squash court drinking water, and the conversation goes I really want to paint flowers, and it's me too. Oh, I'm getting ready. And so they're real keen, but just don't paint flowers. Or writing. I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write movies, but never writing.
Do you think that
writers write? They say, right?
Do you think that because you said, and I quote, you said lots of kids with trippy far out ideas. Do you think that kids on the whole are capable of being more trippy and far out with ideas? Do you think some people just kind of lose that after?
Well, that's the sort of saying. I mean, that's just about basically, John, you're 22. Stop doing impressions of baguettes and stuff.
Please acknowledge the crushing reality of life and get on with it.
Well, I think the thing is, it's real funny. I think it's funny is that in life, it's always the typical thing where the older people can be a bit more serious, right, about the business because they're trying to bring in the Easter eggs, and then the younger ones care less and are being silly and are making. Both the guys and girls are doing silly things to make each other laugh in their late teens or 20s. And my point is, they're doing that because they know it's all a charade. It's a game, right? So if you work at a hotel and everyone's dressed to the nines and has their tuxedos and stuff, you start pretending to be a monkey while no one's looking, your other colleague's going to crack up because you don't mean to behave like a monkey, because this is where we behave as if I don't poo. Can I please sit you down here with a croissant? So my point is, well, I guess. Oh yeah, so you don't lose that stuff, like, you know, my a beautiful life.
You just
know.
you just push it. Some people just push it down a little.
Yeah, but the other thing is, like, it's interesting that it sort of never goes away, because it's sort of like if someone says, "Look, to be honest with you, I've been bloody serious for the last 20 years, and I just want to drop it. I want to drop it. I just want to be as ridiculous as possible starting tonight." So
You just made me realise when you realise that no one ever loses it is when between generations of people, often let's say a family, there's a well-timed fart and then a perfect piece of comic timing, and then the whole room cracks up.
yeah, and that's because they all know it's. Yeah, that's the best family moments, isn't it?
Good times.
No, farts have been a lot of that. There'd be a percentage of a lifetime that was amassed around giggling as children. The amount of kids that laugh about farts and stuff in the class is continuous. But I was just going to say that it's funny, like, because older people often get a ridiculous sense of humour because they've seen.
Well, they've realised it's the tail end,
yeah,
right?
like it's the phenomenon of sitting there and then a truck falls on your friend in front of you and crushes him, and they've seen things like that. So it's like after a while, it's like they'll have a giggle and a scone because they know it can all just go wrong.
Well,
you know?
also, I think I was talking about someone else on the podcast about this, even being just post-40, it's like less and less bothers you, so there's more room for humour.
Yeah, or
there's
you
less anxiety and fear.
and also you get better at
Is that seat getting
reacting or
uncomfortable?
you know, I'm doing that.
They're not great, are they? They look great.
No, I like it. I think it actually makes you want to sort of do more yoga. I feel like I'm stretching here.
Oh, good. Come back to the mic.
Oh yeah, sorry. What was that thing? I was at.
Someone made a film about you.
Oh yeah.
How'd that come about?
He approached me after I gave a little talk about animation at the school, and then his
What school?
name's John Spry, and it was at the South Seas, and he just saw a little talk
wow.
and said, "Hey, how about doing a little?"
That's so cool,
I'm in a
right?
doco class. Yeah, he did really well. He did really well.
Did you find it weird being the subject of something?
Yeah, I did a little bit, but I also thought it was...
Because you're interesting. Like you're not an exhibitionist. That's loaded. But you're totally fine with something like this. But you strike me as kind of quite private as well. So
Yeah, right.
something like a film, like a doco on yourself, might be.
Yeah,
odd.
well, that's
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, I think I like studying characters, basically.
So he studied you as a character.
I
15
guess so.
minutes.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes.
And so how
But
long
that
was the camera with you
but-
for 15 minutes?
No, I don't know how. Over a couple of days, he did
Yeah,
some filming and stuff.
yeah.
But I thought also what I enjoyed was because everyone or most people have egos, is that in some ways I kind of liked that. If that was my life, then that's not too bad. And I meant that in the sense that
You didn't come across like a jerk.
Well, not if I came across a jerk. Well, no, not even if I did or I didn't. It was
Yeah,
more
you
about.
wouldn't have, no, it's
no,
okay.
it's okay if I did. You can't. You're allowed to be a jerk.
That's right.
But I guess the point is that not about that, but more about that guy or girl is enjoying doing art. You know. So in a sense, like for me, it was nice because if that's what my life is, then that's not too bad. So
Yeah.
I guess in that sense, I quite liked it because is that like I tell you one thing that I find quite trippy is people say.
What's
like,
the inciting incident? What's the arc? What's the first turning point?
The first turning point is get ready for the second turning point. There's a resolution coming. Not before the conflict. But no. So
Is it internal? Is that the conflict in it? Is it Guy versus society?
Shalom, what's his name?
Guy versus Guy?
Oh yeah. No. I was talking about was basically what was it? Oh yeah, control. So
Yeah.
basically, people would say you're such a control. Well, I haven't had people say it to me, but like a control freak, right? Like so with claymation, it's like, and I control the actors. Don't talk back. Ha ha. That's a character I've made, and I'll control that. Nah. And I'll make the house too, and I'll make the city. Ha ha ha. So there's that idea of animation. But I guess my point is when I saw the video, I thought, oh, that's quite hilarious that dude, or me, has basically set himself up to play with to make characters and do voices. So for me, that was really the success of it. So Not so much just ego, but actually just stoked that I was working with Clay, which was my sort of goal. Because as like you or anyone, I like to go to the park. I like to play guitar. So I'm trying to say I like to do lots of things. So sometimes those docos are funny because, like,
Yeah.
the spoon man,
The one-dimensional guy.
the toast, the toast eater.
And so you've been eating toast? Yeah, I've been eating toast. And mainly eating toast? A lot of the time.
I want to do something unprecedented, but you're the right guest to do it. I really need to quickly go for a pee, so I'm going to leave you alone with the
I'll do the
microphone,
noises.
and I'll be interested when I go back and listen. What? It's just 10 minutes to go.
Okay, so I can improvise while you're in there? Okay, let me think. So, well, I first met Lewis in Tonga in 1981, and we were stowaways on a boat, and we always used to argue about who should have the last fish. And then, of course, coconut fell on his head. He forgot everything and then thought that he met me at Wellington High. But I had met him, of course, in Tonga a long time ago. And those were the old days before there were railway tracks and planes. And then he got into technology and invented light bulbs. Oh, nothing. I was just telling them about Tonga.
I'll hear it in post. 4 cups of coffee today. Oh, it's a diuretic.
Oh, that's
But that's the beauty of independent media, right?
Yeah, it is, but I think...
Being able to do that.
But also, then still learning how to make income off it. So,
Oh, no, I meant going to the bathroom.
yeah, well, you could make money out of that if you put a camera in there, I suppose.
You could monetize your walking. You could monetize your washing dishes.
So, what happened to the film? I tried to find it online. The film about you, I mean.
Oh, yeah, no, you just ask for the password and he'll give it to you and you can watch it.
Well,
I'll
yeah,
send
on
you a
his
link.
site. Oh, really?
No, go to their Facebook page
But-
and then if you ask him, you say, hi, can I have a password? And then he'll send you a password and then you can watch it. Then you've got to get on your knees, go underneath the table,
Yeah.
count to 5,
Okay.
Jump up and then push in the password.
But it did show at a documentary festival or something, didn't it?
Yeah.
Was that weird for you?
Oh, I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool
Yeah.
for him as well because he had done well with it and had played in Miami and different parts of America and Canada and Europe and London and stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool because it was his first doco and he did a great job and he had a great team. And yeah, I was really happy for him. And I think you're right. It can be a bit weird if anyone does a doco on you, but I thought it was kind of a good challenge. And as I said, it sort of reminded me that I'm working on some things that I do enjoy, you know. But I'd love to make. Well, I used to run a mockumentary course
Oh, wow.
at an art school in Wellington. It was so
Have you
funny.
made one?
Yeah, we've made heaps. And there was stuff like the Veranda Club, where basically people who love verandas and they all meet on the veranda and just talk. I just love verandas. I just love the way she's cut it, and you do feel safe leaning against it.
I was thinking before of all this early stuff. Like, have you kept? Oh, please tell me you've kept all of this in that pre-digital world. Have you kept all your really early animation attempts and so on?
No, not all of them. And like, it's funny, like that veranda one I told you. Those were student ones as well. So teaching students were doing them. But to be honest, like there was one that got wiped, not because of me, someone else. And it was it was a crystal one that was quite funny about this guy who got into crystals and it was like 0800 crystals and stuff. But you know, that's kind of, man, that's such a big thing when you could lose a piece or a film like that.
Yeah.
But you also sort of
Well,
like, if you watch
it on
them back,
videotape or film.
yeah, those ones. Yeah, but I never
yeah.
thought of keeping those ones anyway.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the students would probably have those. But I also think that often, would they be as funny looking back? Often,
Where the hell do you teach a mockumentary course in
Oh,
Wellington?
it was great. They let me just create a course.
Where, Vic?
No, it was at the Learning Connection in Wellington.
Wow.
And what was so cool about that was that you could get better performances out of students because with bad acting, if you get a student to act bad on purpose, they're in control of their acting. So that was the theory. So I did things where people would audition badly as orcs or audition badly as Gandalf, and they would be so bad that they were
Amazing.
It's really funny, yeah.
Yeah, like watching
so the
Plan
more
9 or
so
something.
if they're trying to be serious and do a love line,
Yeah.
and they're trying to be bad, then it was just so bad. That it
And
was really funny.
and on videotape, which adds to that perfect bad.
But you should have watched it. Everyone just stood there cracking up. Like, the next
Yeah.
person would come do a really bad audition, and it was awesome. Like, in fact, it'd be a good thing you do with famous movies, like you audition for Luke, you know, and just like going, I want to be powerful. See, that was terrible.
Looking outwards, yeah, you saw.
I've got sandy hair.
Looking outwards, is there anything? What are you watching or listening to at the moment? Whatever that's cracking you up. What's cracking you up? I started watching the Glorious Ladies of Wrestling dramatization on what's sort of a comedy on Netflix. That's quite good, quite weird. Set in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. And so it's a series based on their lifestyle.
Well, based on this weird phenomena of these wrestlers that this kind of entrepreneur that I don't know what you'd call him that started this women's wrestling league. That
What's it called?
Glorious Ladies of Wrestling.
Oh, yeah, that sounds funny.
It's not a laugh a minute. It's just sort of quite different to anything else I've watched before. What? Hang on, I'm answering the question I was asking you. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. I've been enjoying looking at painters actually, like Pissarro and Hockney as usual. I always like Hockney and Francis Bacon and even a Picasso.
Where? Not online. That's not good enough. You've been going to galleries.
Yeah, well, that was all actually at Melbourne because they've got a little private collection. I need to see more art in real life. I haven't in Europe.
Have you been to Melbourne a lot?
No, I've really enjoyed going there.
It's a great city, right?
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Yeah, it was real nice. And I watch docos a lot. I find it hard to... I'd almost like to act in an action film. Who wouldn't? Be fun, right? Or a thing. But I actually just find docos really good. I watch them more than series. Like, action series have to be really good for me to watch them.
Do you find stuff easily online? I've got a doco for you. It's called Finders Keepers.
Oh, yeah. All right.
It's about a leg that gets found in a barbecue that a guy buys. I'm going to let you go soon.
Awesome. Thanks,
you seem
man.
to have a beautiful thing going on with your dog. Talk about.
Oh yeah. So Rocky Bear is I haven't got any children, so Rocky Bear is basically like my wonderful little buddy, and he's just really funny. He's funny when he's serious. He's funny when he barks. He's very serious.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a Maltese Bichon.
Nice.
And I've never owned a dog before, even as a kid. So I've entered dog world, and they're really funny.
I'd love to be in dog world. Yeah, dogs.
Yeah,
are
well,
great.
it's good. It's a big commitment.
Well, I can't really do it here. Yeah,
that's right. But I mean, like, and if you go overseas and stuff, you've got to have people to look after your dog.
Yeah.
But
how old's Rocky now?
Oh, he's 2 and a bit.
Right.
But he's
so
so funny, and he looks like a little.
Came out of his mother's dog.
Yeah. In that case, 2.5 because they have them for a few months for all the health checks before.
Well, so he had him. Anyway, he had him since he was a total tiny little ridiculous.
Yeah. I've got all the video footage, and that's the footage I don't want to sort of miss. God, he's so funny. Like, it's more than cat videos. Like, if you see
dog videos, mate, they're more than cat videos.
Well, if you see puppy videos, you find it hard. It's just hard to get mad.
Yeah,
they're very, very, very funny. And I'll have to animate him at some stage as well.
I was thinking that as sort of a sly character on something.
Oh, what are you teaching? Just quickly, what are you teaching?
It's changed this semester. I'm teaching kind of making audio documentaries actually with Pro Tools, so kind of storytelling in Pro Tools. I'm teaching another audio-based paper, which is post-production and kind of adding audio to video.
Yeah, right.
It's quite changed in the semester, and then I'm also teaching introduction to TV and radio.
And is that
which is for much younger students? No, still at AUT.
Yeah, right.
Still at AUT. I'm a doctor now.
Oh, you've got a doctorate?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, up on the shelf there's a large black bound. Probably can't see it from there. But
I always think that means you can deal with...
People pick it up and hold it gingerly like a baby that's not theirs, and then they put it back on the shelf. But
oh wow, that's pretty good. I mean, if you get sick, you'll be able to fix it.
Oh well, thanks for chatting, man.
Thanks, buddy.